Sounds beats.
Finding the funk, Sheila E, take one.
Sheila, how are you?
Oh, good, man. How are you?
I just flew in from Mars, and I'm like, what's this thing called funk? If you had to describe funk to someone who'd never heard any of the music before, how would you describe it?
Wow. Well, what's your definition of funk? I mean, what's anyone's definition of funk? Mine might be different from yours, but funk for me was, the first part of funk for me was James Brown. East Bay funk was Tower Power, you know. Sly, of course. Anybody that came from the Bay Area was funk to us, you know. It was because of the way that they incorporated bass and drums, you know, and the rhythms, that how they, you know, here's drums, here's bass and guitar, and how it just intertwined like this to really figure out some intricate things sometimes. And then some funk is just, you play 2 and 4 and you just don't move, that's funky. That's funky to me. Just play the same thing like longer than 8 bars, that's funky. It's that space that happens when you don't do anything, that's funky.
It's funny, a lot of the drummers, we talked to the drummer from the Ohio Players, Diamond.
Awesome.
They all talk about space.
It's gotta be space.
How does it, is it the space between the notes? What do you mean by space? I think you defined it.
The space is, you know, it's hard to define space sometimes in jazz because a lot of times jazz gets very busy, but there's still space, and it's the way that you space things. So for funk music, it's that space. It's the space that there's no music being played. You just allow that to breathe. So if it's a 2, ga, dun, ga, space, space, you have to let that. So if everybody's playing together all on the down, if I was a percussion player, that space is funky. I'd play with everybody too, but sometimes they want the space to be played. That space sometimes for me is the upbeat. So instead of playing on the down, I'm playing on the ups. But it still makes it funky because I'm making sure that I'm not stepping on anyone as well.
Laura, is that?
It's going to happen, whatever that is. I don't know where it is.
I'm just going to get room tone at the very end.
Okay, cool. East Bay, it's interesting. People think about a lot of places and they think funky, but the Bay Area had a lot of great funk out of it. Do you remember that coming up as a young musician?
Oh, yeah. I mean, back in the day, first my dad played with Carlos Santana, so, you know, them jamming and, you know, around all the time. I mean, that was like Latin funk to me. And then growing up listening to Tower Power, you know, sitting in with them, getting on a bus when I was younger, like elementary to junior high school, I would catch the bus and sit at a corner and listen to either Sly or Grand Central Station. You know, at the corner in Berkeley, it's just like, you know, we would sit outside and listen to them play, you know, the Pointer Sisters. It's like wherever we could find music, it was that Bay Area sound that it was, you know, everybody was on a different street playing. It was like a movement. It was like a movement.
Talk about, and you mentioned it earlier, the relation between what we call funk and Latin music.
Mm-hmm.
And just black music in that period in the 70s when it went from just being like stacks and, you know, regular R&B, and it got more ambitious. What's Latin music or Latin instrumentation's relationship to funk?
Well, it's interesting because for me, it almost seemed like it was the norm because that's what I grew up with. In the Bay Area, it seemed like we always had percussion involved in, if it was funk, R&B, whatever. It was a part of the sound I think that the Bay Area had, you know. It was with, you know, Santana, even with Tower Power, they had a percussion player, you know. Sly, I mean, it was that thing that I think it was in our water there in the Bay Area. It's like percussion was an intricate part of the sound, you know. And it was the way that it was being played. Again, it was, as a percussion player or using percussion in funk and R&B, where do we fit in that? If where's that space? You got to find that space, and I think that was what was great about the music and the percussion players in the Bay Area. We always found where that was. It's like, you know, DC coming up with go-go and that kind of, you know, they created that sound, and that's a whole nother funk. That's funky too.
And Steve Arrington spoke very highly. He talked, which we didn't know, about his whole time with you guys.
Yeah.
Talk about, what do you remember about Steve as a young musician?
I'm sorry, one quick, actually, did you see that there? Just fix that right here on the back there. 2 seconds.
Ashley does everything.
Mm-hmm. I see.
She's
Is that better?
get the other
Yes.
straight. What is it?
Just, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. We all do it all here.
That's
Hairdressing.
how it's supposed to be. You got to do it.